What's good with YouTube? You already know Big Flocka with a convict's perspective, and I'm going to smash, dash, slide on through with a little bit of energy. Please hit the like, subscribe, comment, and do all those things to help support this channel, and hit that bell notification for future fire content. So we got a Goshen Massacre update. It's a little bit older, right? It's a couple months ago, but it was kind of swept under the rug. And what's regarding is the father of the infant, right, murdered in the gang-related mass shooting, is filing a wrongful death suit, right? As well as alleges Tulare County social workers and sheriff deputies failed to fulfill their mandatory duties under California law, causing deaths of Nicholas and his mother, 16-year-old Alyssa Perez. As we already know, man, the child, Nicholas, right, was basically returned to the mother 3 days before this shooting. Okay, the father's name is Shane Mappin, right? And he got basically a high profile law office in Los Angeles that's representing him on this case with multiple attorneys, man. So they're really taking this case serious. Now, we all seen the sad situation, the footage of the mother, running with the infant child, throwing him over the fence, and, her jumping over, and then her being pursued by, one of those suspects, and then both of them being shot, which was such a heinous crime, right? Now, after reading the case against, Tulare County, right? Man, they could have prevented this. Most definitely. Now, Nicholas, right, who was only 10 months old when he was murdered, had been in foster care for most of his life. Now, the father was staying up there in Modoc County at the time of all this event, but he was visiting Alyssa, right, and visiting his son and his future fiance. They were planning on having a family eventually. Now, as we know, there's a lot of, multiple factors, gang affiliations, trying to make a movida out there, people trying to cover their tracks. There's a lot of things that happened with this Goshen Massacre if you guys listen to previous videos that I've done, right? So I'm not going to rehash and continue to go down that path. Now, with such drug activity and such gang activity going on, right, which sometimes you can't help it, but if you're a product of your environment, they're supposed to take notice, right? They're supposed to try to help you get out of that position to where you can care for your child away from any type of hindrances or dangers. Child welfare services is supposed to actually work with families. So that's why I'm kind of shocked they didn't try to work with this family. And this tragedy could have been basically averted, straight up. Now, the attorneys, right, Mappin's attorney, has alleged that months before the shooting, right, a social worker assigned to Nicholas' case had discovered through a background check that members of the household had numerous felony convictions and charges but did not notify juvenile court. They were on notice for months and months that there were problematic individuals in the home, and they just did nothing with the information, which we all know they're supposed to report that information. It's child welfare services, man. They're supposed to report all that kind of stuff, man. It's the same thing with Section A. You can't even go into Section A housing if it's unwanted individuals. Now, with a child, it's even more important that's coming out of, basically being in foster care and going through reunification services. I understand reunification services because I've been through them. Law enforcement are mandated court reporters. So I don't know why that wasn't even reported. Now, prior to the shooting, right, deputies were looking for Alyssa's grandfather, Martin Peña Perez, who had an active parole warrant, encountered his brother, Eladio Perez, right, Jr. in the driveway on January 3rd. Martin and his brother, Eladio Perez, documented Sureño gang members in Tulare County, right, and were searched of a trailer on the property belonging to Perez Jr. Turned up an illegal gun, ammunition, methamphetamine, pipes for smoking meth, body armor, and 10 bags of marijuana. He was arrested and released upon bond. Alyssa and another minor were at the house at the time of the search. Law enforcement is required to report suspected child abuse or neglect under the Child Abuse and Neglect Reporting Act. Deputies did not contact child welfare services, but the excuse that they gave, man, is off the hook. They're saying because the drugs were found in the trailer and not in the house that they didn't have to report it. Law enforcement's excuse was it was in a completely different residence from where Alyssa was living. It was in the same fucking lot. Just one area was fenced off. They said if it would have been found inside the home where she was at, then they would have contacted Child Welfare Services. Now, according to Wyatt Vesperman, right, he said that, which is Mapin's attorney, he said they saw a young mother with a baby crib in her bedroom in a house with meth and methamphetamine pipes, body armor, AR rifles, with no serial numbers on them, bullet holes in the walls, just a long list of red flags. The law requires them to pick up the phone and let Child Protective Services know that this is what's going on with Alyssa, and they just didn't do it. This was her family here. You know what I'm saying? This is where they're going to release the child to. They have to report that. And in fact, she was a minor at the time. That's what makes this kind of interesting. Now, in this lawsuit, right, Vesperman said that nearly 7 other children have died or nearly died while in the care, custody, or control of Tulare County Child Welfare Services within the past 3 years. One of them, 3-year-old Journey Gonzalez, suffered near brain death as an infant in 2020 after social workers failed to follow up on reports that he showed signs of malnutrition. This lawsuit was filed by the grandmother, right, Patricia Sanchez. And within weeks of the shooting in Goshen, Sanchez also reached out to Mapin's mother, Valerie Gensel, because she had just won a settlement of $32 million for her grandson, Journey Gonzalez, and the effects of what happened to him. Due to being under, social workers failed to follow up and do reports of the custody parents that were under reunification services, basically. Now, the law firm Panish, Shea, Boyle, and Ravid Budi, LLP, the Los Angeles law firm that represented Sanchez, is now representing Mapin. So basically, they got the right attorneys on this, and what they're doing is they're trying to exploit similar patterns that have happened in Tulare County that have pretty much been fucking swept under the rugs or just pretty much ignored. You know, these ain't big counties or big cities like, you know, Los Angeles or, you know, Santa Clara or whatnot. This is a county where, like, this city, I think, had maybe a population of 10,000 or 12,000. You know what's going on in your local community. You know who's involved in what. So I have a hard time believing that any of these, you know what I'm saying, social workers did not know what was going on in their own community. This right here is a prime example of a system that doesn't work. That they try to, ignore red flags, warning signs, because they just got so many different caseloads, or they don't know how to sit there and identify them, or they just don't care. Like I said, Alyssa was 16 herself. They should have had some type of program for her to go into with her child at that age to guarantee her success at being a parent, man. Reunification is about reunifying the parents who are biological the parents. I went through those services, man. So this is a shocker how that they handled this shit so poorly, putting that child back in a home where criminal activities were going on and the mother still being under 18. She needs help. She needs some right support. They didn't give her the right support. They just gave her the child, which I'm all in favor of, but under the right circumstances. Put her in a program where she can live there with the child. They have programs like that. They have them in all kinds of different cities. I've been to those places, man, so I know how they work. I'm going to show you guys the history timeline of Nicholas Peraz, who was one that the 10-month that was murdered. On March 1st, he was born in Delta Hospital, Visalia, in the care of mother, Alyssa Peraz, who was 15 years old at the time. On March 2nd, Child Welfare Services receives child abuse and neglect referral concerning Nicholas Peraz, allegedly Alyssa Peraz is not able to care for newborn basic needs, causing the child to go without feedings and changing for several hours. Now, they also received several reports since the year of 2015 on Alyssa Peraz because she was underage, guys, right? Concerning her family members because they were involved in gangs, right? Multiple shootouts occurred at the family's homes, street gangs, and drug violence. So Child Welfare Service was overlooked all this. Now, March 3rd, they moved forward with a protective custody warrant for Nicholas Peraz, which means that they put him in foster care. On March 4th, they did the completes the identification and emergency information for Nicholas Peraz. Besides his mother, there was no other relatives put on this list. On March 8th, Barbara Cruz and Kimberly Machado finalized the SDM safety and risk assessment of the physical living conditions and hazardous and immediately threatening to the health and safety of the child. They failed to do the referral assessment, asking for criminal history, obtaining the names of all adults and children in the home, ask if anyone in the household has ever been in counseling, hold a team decision-making meeting, and identify relatives for potential placement. On April 22nd, Tulare County Juvenile Court holds a jurisdiction and disposition review hearing where it is found that Nicholas Perez cannot be returned to Alyssa Perez, on account of current home environment. CWS is encouraged to detain Alyssa Perez and make her a dependent of the court, so both her and Nicholas Perez can be together in foster care. CD Child Welfare Services did not do so. Then this was redeemed by the courts, but they didn't do it. On May 4th, CWS, which is Child Welfare Services, was required pursuant to Welfare and Institutional Code sections 16501 and CDS All County to organize and hold a child and family team meeting for Nicholas Perez, but did not. July 17th, Teresa Gonzalez, who was assigned to Nicholas Perez, right? Caseworker, right? And then you had Alyssa Perez, caregiver, Jennifer Anella, who reported the home where she and Alyssa Perez lived was raided by police. She further reports that her and Alyssa Perez are moving out because the home is not a safe place for them right now. Okay, on July 19th, their case plan that they have for everybody that has reunification services was obtain and maintain a stable and suitable residence for yourself and your child. Use the skills learned in parenting class during supervised visits and pay attention to and monitor child's health and safety and well-being. All simple stuff, man. I'm going to skip through a little bit of this legal stuff, right? But on January 3rd, right, is when the law enforcement personnel from Tulare County Sheriff's Office, including defendants Matthew Askew, Luke Hamilton, Matthew Rascon, Joseph Rodriguez, Ryan Karam, Desmond Guri, and Robbie Hebert, which are all going to be included in this the civil claim, right, conducted a parole compliance check at the Goshen household. 2 minors, including Alyssa Perez, were present at the time. Rosa Perez informs defendants Matthew Askew that they were shooting guns on New Year's and 13 rounds of live ammunition were found located in an unlocked shed. One member of the Goshen household confirms to defendant Matthew Askew that he resides at the Goshen household and he currently is an active gang member. As part of a search premises, methamphetamine pipes, body armor, AR-style rifles with no serial numbers, a handgun, a shotgun, ammunition, shell casings, and bullet holes in walls were found. There was a crib that was meant for him, right? That was found. That nobody reported anything further about this, right? Within 36 hours, they're supposed to report these type of findings to Child Welfare Services. None of this was even reported. The child was basically given days before the shooting actually happened. 3 days, as a matter of fact. Now, I've experienced with reunification services as I went through them, right? I've gone through family courts. This right here is a classic example of law enforcement and child welfare services failing to do their job. If they would have did their job, they would have found some type of suitable housing for Alyssa, based on the fact that she's a minor. All that should have been reported. Instead, they just rushed to get the case done, reunified with the mother, and 3 days later, a child's dead. So basically, Tulare County, in my eyes, the Child Welfare Services, the Sheriff Department, and whatnot, they got blood on their hands, man. And this has not really been put out there in any type of, media publications or whatnot, man. So this is something that we really need to look at seriously. If protocol procedures would have been followed, Alyssa and Nicholas would still be here today. They were not. These are 100% facts. It's unfortunate what happened, but at the end of the day, the suspects are guilty of what they did. I mean, once they've been found guilty in court, it's pretty cut and dry case. It's one of the only active cases I will really speak upon because of the death of the 10-month-old. But this could have been prevented, and that's the unfortunate thing. They should have been put in a proper housing for her. Think of what she's gone through, and she's trying to be a mother, and the experiences of what she's gone through, that she has to live in this type of environment, man. No one's ever talked about that, you know? There's a history that goes back to 2015 within that residence. Just days before, weeks before, they were already having incidents of fucking gunfire and drug play and all that kind of stuff going on in this home, which led to whatever happened on the Goshen Day Massacre. Now, granted, right? If you notice, in all the child welfare services, it does not mention the father at all, which he probably was underage himself. But there was a grandma, I believe, who actually wanted partial custody and requested it. But I guess they had moved to a way farther location, man, in Modoc County. Anybody knows where Modoc County is? That's all the way up north, man. You know, the father was young. I take it that's filing this lawsuit. So if he was older, I would have more burden on him not pursuing this issue sooner. But being at the young age, he probably didn't know what he was doing anyways. He still was probably learning, was probably relying on his family to help him. And I think they did the best that they could, because they did go to a court hearing asking for partial custody. And I know that they were concerned about the child in this household. But once again, like we've seen in numerous cases that have happened, like in the last few years, especially in these smaller counties, it seems like the system has failed. And with all the press that this whole issue got nationally, no one has fucking put a fucking finger on the fucking main thing, the main concern here. A child's life was lost because the system failed, man. They could have prevented this. You know, the 4 other murders they may not have been able to prevent, but these 2 they could have, man. Therefore, they need to be held accountable. They should have been doing their job, filing the reports, and not being so lazy, man. You know, and gave this young mother a chance to do something that she's been probably wanting to do since she gave birth to this child, because she was under supervised visits. She only had the child for like 3 days, right? It's fucked up, man. You know, and she goes back to 2015. They've been getting reports when she was probably around at that time 8 years old. They were already found child welfare service reports, a total of 11 in regard to her. What that means was she was a victim of child abuse and child neglect, right? But she's still maintaining that household somehow, with all the crazy things going, shootings, gang banging, drugs, and whatnot. Anyways, man, I hope this message gets through to somebody and touches someone, because, man, stuff like this needs to stop. And I hope it kind of, man, maybe can get out there a little bit, man, because this is really something that hasn't been put out there, man. And basically that all those involved, man, since this child was born, have failed this child. And failing that child, he died. And that's not something that should be overlooked. With that said, it's your boy Flacco from a convict's perspective. I'm out.